Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Dr. Bill Williams on the Influencers Podcast. Hey, we're very fortunate to have today Sales Director of Atlantic Data Security, Rusty Agee from Ormond Beach, Florida. I'm very proud to bring him on. I want to introduce you to my friend Randy. I'm sorry, my friend Rusty.
That's right. Hey, I
Did I
get that
get
all
that?
the time. I used to work for a Randy, and they would confuse us Randy and Rusty all the time. So no worries.
Hey, how are you feeling down there in the sunny Florida,
I'm
America's
good.
paradise?
I'm good. It's 77 degrees. The sun's shining. I'm sitting here looking out at the water. I can't imagine it being any better, actually, unless I was maybe out there on the water. But got to get some work done.
I got you. Well, we want to find out about Atlantic Data Security. We want to find out about kind of what you do there. And you've got an interesting story. I know it's going from user to engineer to sales. And I want to dig that story out and share with our audience. We have about 200 countries that watch the Influencers podcast. Thousands of people around the globe will be tuning in live. And what we're going to find out is how cybersecurity is changing, how you're working with it, and what has Atlantic got to do with all that. So tell us
Yeah,
about where you were and how you got started.
yeah, sure. So Atlantic Data has been around for about 30 years and purely focused on security solutions. That's what we help our customers with. Navigating cybersecurity issues. But me personally, I took a really twisted journey to get to where I'm at now. I was a sheriff's deputy for about 6 years. I'd come out of the military, and a friend of mine who was there as well quit and went and got a job with computer network. And he says, "Hey, you got to come over and do computer network, and you'll make a lot more money, and no one's going to pull a gun on you or shoot at you." And so I got a book called Land Primer. I still have it around here somewhere. And I read that book and I was like, well, this doesn't look too hard. This looks like something would be fun. And I've always been a mechanically minded and a tinkerer. So I read the book. I took a few classes. I changed careers. I did that till about from 98 to 2015. I was on the customer side, moved over to sales engineer for Checkpoint Software for a couple of years, channel manager, and now I'm in sales. So I'm regional director for sales for Southeast and at Atlantic Data Security, primarily Florida based. And yeah, that's how I got here. It's not the conventional journey for sure.
I think you learned the game from the ground up. You came at it from one side and kind of migrated over to the other side.
Absolutely.
And you probably support your clients a lot better having that background. So
yeah, it helps. It does.
You
help.
must have had some ups and downs along the way. Tell us about what was one of the major downtimes that you suffered that led you to have a great learning experience that made you more successful?
Yeah, so I would say I was on the customer side. I was looking to make my first jump over into a reseller side. I was going to be an engineer, consulting engineer. And I'd had a couple of interviews. I did well on them. And I thought, this is great. And then they said, we need you to come in and do a presentation on something you built out and how you would present to a customer. And I didn't put enough thought into that about how difficult it would be to get up in front of someone having never done it before and draw out some complex network design and walk through why this is what the customer should do, et cetera. And I bombed it. I mean, when I say bombed it, I bombed it. It was humiliating even walking out of the office because I knew I did so bad. So lesson learned there is be prepared, take it serious, do your research, know what you're going in there for, and don't just waltz in thinking you can do something you've never done before. It was,
I can understand it.
It was a learning experience for sure.
I think bombing on a presentation is humbling. I know exactly the feeling. I think over my 46 years in dentistry, I presented tens of thousands of treatment plans and options to patients, and not everybody was thrilled with what they heard. So I'm sure you learn. Tell us, in your experience, what do people do that causes them to fail?
I think lack of preparedness. Sometimes not asking enough questions ahead of time to know what you're going to be asked to do. In this instance, I knew I was going to present, but I was thinking, oh, I'll just draw a network diagram up there. I was very familiar with doing that and just explain the points and, the different pieces of it. And it turned into, what would you do different? How is this bringing a value, money wise? It had a lot of questions from a customer standpoint that I didn't consider. And it just, be prepared. That would be my main thing, is know what you're getting into.
When we talk with young dentists, pardon, it would be the same thing. They would always want to talk about the features, and the patient's really interested in the benefits.
Yeah.
And young salesmen need to learn that too, don't they?
Absolutely. You don't, one of the things I think, like some of the mistakes of being a salesperson is you're overbearing and browbeating someone. You can be persistent and not treat a customer, that way. And having been a customer, I didn't like it. So I try not to do that. But rather than talk point products and say, hey, I want to sell you X, Y, Z, you go in and you ask the customer, what are the struggles? What do you feel like your struggles, where are you struggling? Is it resources? Is it for certain types of solutions, et cetera? And then you kind of get an understanding of what they're dealing with and how they're dealing with it. And then you bring up, like you said, solutions, not products. Like sometimes they don't even need new products. They just need somebody to take a second look at what they're currently using, and it may not cost them anything to get better cybersecurity. So I think that's what customers ultimately are looking for. That's what I was looking for as a customer.
It takes a lot sometimes to be in sales, and you have to kind of have that internal motivation. What is it that you found was your secret weapon in your motivation to get up and do it every day?
I think you have to be ready to pivot, right? Your days don't necessarily go the way they planned, which is fine by me. That's why I was a sheriff's deputy. I didn't have the same routine every day. So I like that part of it, but you get things thrown at you, customers having problems. And I've always said, go the extra mile. And I don't mean, by that, I mean, I'm in sales now, right? But I have an engineering background. So if I can offer a little bit of advice to customers having struggles, or if I know what the answer is or can direct them, go the extra mile. I think most people appreciate that. And you don't want to lose sight of your objectives. I mean, I'm here to sell stuff, right? I got to make a living. But if you can go the extra mile, take the load off the customer a little bit, most of them appreciate that. And never stop. You get up every day, you ask what motivates me is, talking to customers, talking to new customers, never stop learning about new technologies. There's so many vendors out in cybersecurity now. It's overwhelming. I was at RSA a couple of weeks ago, and there were just thousands of vendors, but really good tech coming out, and just, good ways to keep customers secure. And I get up, I like talking about it. So that's kind of what keeps me going.
You love your topic. That's what's cool. Tell me your company's motto at Atlantic Data.
So Atlantic Data is without reading it, we've been around for 30 years. They are when I say 100% customer focus, I mean it's not just a cliche with us. That is what Atlantic Data does. We have over 600 customers now, and keeping them happy and keeping them secure is our goal. We provide a lot of service. Sorry, I guess I'm here in a moment. We provide a lot of services wrapped around cybersecurity for those customers, and obviously, to make us look good, we have to do a good job. And there's about 80 dedicated people here that really put forth their heart and soul.
How far is your geographic footprint for service?
We're nationwide. We have some Canadian, Latin America customers as well. Traditionally, it's been a Northeast business, but they expanded down in 2020 with me coming on board all the way to Florida. And then we've got customers now at California, Washington State, et cetera. So really, I would say U.S. focused, but a couple of our owners are actually Canadian. So we've got some business in Canada as well.
Sounds like a nice big footprint.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say there's a lot of business out there. A lot of companies need cybersecurity expertise, and the ones that take it serious are going to benefit. They're going to end up better in the long run, as we see. I mean, I'm sure you read it. Everybody reads it. Ransomware is not going anywhere. People continue to get hit with stuff that they should really be protected from, but make bad choices or don't have the budget, or that the budget's not given to them, the resources aren't given to them. So,
well, with your expansion and your growth, I think it must be something, a secret sauce. So can you share some of your success secrets that others can model from that have allowed expansion in this period of time?
Yeah, I'd say, being customer focused, that's the number one, right? And doing what you say you're going to do, delivering on your promises, and also hiring the right people. We've made strategic choices in hiring. We've got some really great engineers that are helping customers every day. They're booked solid every day, and just driving that, driving home the need for cybersecurity. Focus on the customer's needs, get them what they want, and when you leave, you're happy. I mean, that's the goal for everyone, right? We all can just sell a bunch of solutions and then walk away from it and not provide that extra layer of support with the customer, but that's not how we do business. And I think that's driven us to success because of our attitude towards the customer and focusing on them.
You're talking customer satisfaction, talking customer support. What is one thing you do that would make somebody buy from you?
I think it goes back to going the extra mile, like I talked about. If a customer comes to me and says, "Hey, we want to look at a solution like, whatever, maybe it's firewall, maybe it's endpoint, but can you give us some recommendations and why?" So going the extra mile, doing the research for them, getting my engineers involved. I don't just say, "Hey, buy this," because I want the customer. It has to be a good fit. And there's a lot of great products and solutions out there that don't necessarily. They may be great, but they don't fit a customer's current solution. So I think the goal is to make the solution with the customer to make sure that it fits. And then, as I said, continue past post sales to give that customer, make sure that customer is satisfied, make sure it gets configured correctly, make sure it's working correctly, and do follow-ups. And to me, that's kind of business as usual, but it's going the extra mile a little bit. I don't want to sell something and just walk away and the customer not be happy.
In the cybersecurity business, is there a try before you buy process that's available, or do people have to actually install and commit before they try it?
Now, most vendors absolutely have a try and buy. They call them POCs, proof of concepts, proof of value. Absolutely. Get it. We can help you install it for 30 days, whatever, extend it out. Get a good look and feel of what it's doing for you and what your expected ROI is going to be, right? So if you think you need a solution, you get it in there and it just doesn't work, or it's not really giving you any value, it's great to be able to try it first. And pretty much every vendor that we work with, we can work through those POCs so that they're not just stuck on the hook buying it without getting to try it first.
You mentioned the word ROI. How does ROI happen with the data security or cybersecurity systems?
Well, it's kind of it's hard to measure, right? Because if you get a really good solution and it prevents you from getting attacked and you don't know it, how do you know what your ROI is? If you don't do it and you get attacked and you have to pay $1 million in ransomware, then you kind of wish you would have. But I see cybersecurity solutions a lot like insurance, and I don't mean like they have cyber insurance, but from an insurance standpoint on your car, right? You buy insurance in case you wreck, and if you wreck, then it's quantitative, right? You have to get this fender replaced, so you know how much it costs, so you can do an ROI. With security, if it's doing its job and you don't get attacked, it's hard to prove an ROI with some of it. However, if you do get attacked and you are able to see the mitigation that's taking place because you put this solution in place, then obviously it's a little easier to see. Yeah,
I know a dentist office that got ransomed, and he got very troubled and very expensive situation. So it does happen even in our type
Oh,
business.
absolutely. Listen, that's a mistake people make. The only ones that are in the headlines are the big ones. Colonial Pipeline, San Bernardino County Sheriff just paid $1,001 last week or week before last for ransomware, and those are the ones you see in the news. But I mean, you better believe they're targeting individuals as well. The amount that's paid is different. They understand that Granny can't pay $1 million, so they just ransomware for $250, $500. So everyone needs to understand that everyone's a target. There's so many attacks that there's enough to go around.
I was interviewing in a cybersecurity firm last month, and I heard the same story about ransomware. And since I've been so close to people that I've consulted with having ransomware attacks, I've been aware of what it does to a practice. It seems like there should be a lot more law enforcement involved with shutting that down, but they said it's hard to do, and where possible, they would do it.
It's very hard. It's very hard to track certain. I mean, if they hit big enough targets long enough, they're going to get caught. But doing one-offs, hitting dentist's office, lawyer's office, stuff like that, they're not flashy. I mean, the FBI will absolutely get involved, but they're not flashy. They don't catch a lot of news. It's hard to trace them back, right? They're in other countries. They use Bitcoin. They use, anonymized wallets for those Bitcoins. They use websites that go up and down constantly. So it's hard to track back. And you're right, for a small business that can't, I mean, Colonial Pipeline can probably, if they pay that ransom, eat that ransom to a degree, right? Your dentist's office, you get wiped out and they want $1 million from you. That's going to hit you really hard in the pocket. And these mom and pop shops that get hit sometimes don't recover. They go out of business.
Yeah. Delta Force needs to know more about locations.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me ask you this. Who's your ideal client?
My ideal client is we don't really specialize in any verticals. We have a lot of utility customers, healthcare and some finance. My ideal client is probably mid-size, mid-market from our perspective. I'd love to service the giants of the world, or and I've got some customers that are super small. But my ideal client is probably, I'd say, 1,000 users to 5,000 users is where seems to be a sweet spot where we can get in and do some business and make some impact and help them out the most.
How do you find these ideal clients?
We do events. During COVID, I came on during COVID, so we just did a bunch of webinars, and most of them were wrapped around either cooking or sending out free booze to everyone to get them to attend. And we did the presentation, but we'd always have an interesting, it'd be kept short, and then we'd have an interesting side of either a whiskey tasting or a cocktail class or a gourmet cooking show. Once COVID kind of let up, we do live events now. We try to focus in on certain areas, urban areas. For myself, it's Tampa, Miami, Jacksonville, Orlando, and then in the Carolinas, Charlotte, Raleigh. I'm trying to get people out to local events, try to find something good. It's harder these days because everyone's not back in the office still. They still have remote workers. So, getting people out of their pajamas and trying to get them out to an event sometimes can be challenging. But we do a lot of that, as well as, we have internal business development reps that make calls and stuff.
We're going to talk a little bit about that later on, about some of your unique events. Tell us about the products that you actually offer. Is there a particular thing that y'all specialize in?
Historically, it's been network architecture, like network firewalls, that side of it. Obviously, we've moved into the cloud, so still pretty big in firewalls. There's the three big ones are, Palo, Checkpoint, Fortinet, and a little Cisco in there. We still do a lot of that stuff, a lot of designing and configuring and installing network security devices. But we've made a transition to the cloud, helping customers transform, into the cloud. A lot of our customers have started that journey, and it can be confusing. You got new terms that you haven't dealt with before, and it can be very risky if you do it without taking security first approach. But if you do that security first approach, I think most customers find once they get up and running, get familiar with it, it's not a lot different than having your own data center, but you don't have to.
What's your special technique to crush your competition? You're expanding, not contracting, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, I think we're growing. We've grown. I came on board, like I said, in 2020. We were at about 50 people. Now we're about 80. I'll go back to our secret sauce is customer service, customer focus, and that's the one thing I have found throughout this entire company. Been here almost 3 years. They have integrity, they care about the customer, and we're going to do right by the customer. So I haven't seen anything to that contrary, and I think that's allowing us to grow, as well as keeping current on cybersecurity is for it's ever changing. So for us, we have to keep up, not just the engineers, but the salespeople and everyone involved have to keep up on the latest trends, the latest solutions, and it just takes a dedicated group of people, which I believe we have, that stays up on current topics and current solutions to help best guide our customers to the right choice for them.
I've got to ask a question. You said you had a secret sauce because you're down on the east coast of Florida. Are you part of the A1 sauce group? A1A going through town?
Well, A1A, I live about a 2-minute walk from A1A, but it goes all the way up the coast. So unfortunately, Ian and Nicole last year kind of washed out quite a bit of our beach and toppled some walkovers, and the road caved in a few places. So it took a few months to kind of get that back up and going. But yeah, I live about 2-minute walk from A1A.
Lovely place. Best drive in America.
Yeah, it's not bad, I'll have to say. It's pretty
Talk
good.
about your online platforms that your company relies on. What would be some of them?
Yeah, so me personally, I use LinkedIn, and well, everything I post to LinkedIn gets put on Twitter, but mostly LinkedIn. I use LinkedIn quite a bit, just posting stuff, keeping things current. Every Friday afternoon, I do this show on LinkedIn called Bourbon and Breaches, where I talk about a breach of the week, or sometimes I'll have somebody on and we'll talk about challenges of how to face challenges customers are having and how to address those. But I'll talk about that, and then at the end I finish it up with usually a bourbon cocktail, a different one each week.
Heading into the weekend
on my back porch, heading into happy hour, heading into next week. So it's called Bourbon and Breaches, and I'll tell you, that's something we started with no customers in Florida. I had no customers, and doing that has gotten me some name recognition. Our company's name out there. People like to interact with it and ask me what drink I'm going to make this week, etc. So that's the one I use the most, and I've had the most fun with.
Nice. I did the Kentucky Bourbon Trail in Louisville just about 6 months ago, up there with Profitable Dentist Magazine editor and his family, and about 20 dental hygienists and dentists. So
nice.
I know the story that bourbon is an American tradition. You could have a lot of fun with that.
Yeah. So I was born in Kentucky, but I moved to Charlotte about 14 years old. So, but I've been to the Bourbon Trail. I'm going back in June, actually. A lot of people, whether they know or not know, like bourbon doesn't have to be made in Kentucky, but it does have to be made in the U.S. And there's some other nuances to it. It has to be 51% corn, aged in new American oak barrels, etc. But I've enjoyed learning about it. And with my show, I keep up with breaches, current breaches, current solutions. But then I also sometimes, instead of making a cocktail, I'll just review a new bourbon I've tried, and it's been it's been pretty fun from that aspect.
I'd like to come and join you and listen in someday.
Yeah, absolutely. Every
So
Friday.
how do you find that particular podcast or webinar?
What's that?
Is that online?
Yeah, it's just on LinkedIn. Just go to my profile. I haven't done I haven't moved it over to a podcast yet. I'm considering that, but right now it's just on LinkedIn under my, if you follow me, you'll see it come up.
On LinkedIn Live?
It's not sometimes live, sometimes I just record it. It depends. You've probably used LinkedIn Live. Sometimes it's trying to coordinate everything's a little bit difficult. So I found it a little easier to just record it and post it online.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So let's take an individual client and tell me what you do to give them a 5-star client experience.
Well, for me personally, if I start conversations with a client, it's to sit and listen to what they had to say, and really kind of figure out what direction they are trying to go in, and from that, ask them, what they want me to do, and then try to give them some ideas of what I can do. Right. So if a customer is looking for a particular solution and that's what they tell me, and they don't have any idea where to start, I'm going to go out. I'm going to go and look for myself and do some research. I'm going to talk to my engineers, talk to some of my other customers, see what they're doing, and then I'll go back and offer a few solutions. We'll talk to those vendors and talk to the customer and see if any of those fit. If one fits their budget, if one fits their need, and one fits their ability to manage that solution, then and they end up going with that. So I think again, it goes back to going the extra mile, right? I'm not just trying to sell you something. I am trying to sell you something because I am in sales and I do need to eat, but it's not just to sell you something. I want you to be happy with it and have no regrets. It's like buying a car. You can be prepared as you want. You go down there sometimes, and when I used to buy cars, not anymore, but when I used to buy cars, I'd always leave thinking I left some money on the table, or they ripped me off, and I'd be mad about it for 2 months. And that's not the experience I want my customers to have.
Yeah, we always talked about in dentistry, the perfect result is when the doctor and the customer, the patient, are happy with the result. Nobody feels that they lost out on the deal.
Yeah, no, exactly. Look, I apologize in advance, but I don't like going to the dentist. But whenever I have an issue and they fix it, it always, it's a necessity, and it always, I always feel pretty good leaving there when I got to have a tooth that doesn't hurt anymore, or a broken tooth that's been fixed.
Yeah,
I can appreciate it.
In our business, it's like yours. The ROI on prevention is much better.
Oh yeah,
than fixing something that's broken.
I know, they remind me all the time. Make sure you floss. Make sure you floss.
How do you convert these 5-star experience clients into brand ambassadors that send you many, many customers?
Well, I think again, getting them a lot. If they leave happy, and I continue to follow up with them and make sure that they stay happy. Hopefully, and I've gotten a few referrals, this year alone. And, when the customer's satisfied with that, you're doing your best for them and making an impact and giving them what they want or what they need, they're certainly more likely to refer you. So I think just going, staying the course, doing everything you can for a customer, make sure they're happy, and it'll pay you back with rewards and dividends.
Yeah, I always understood that on the pre-sale side of the sale, follow up is where the fortune is, and the same way after the sale, follow up.
Yeah,
that's still the part of the place that's going to get you the referrals.
It absolutely is. And then some customers won't tell you they're having issues, whether it be they don't want to admit they can't manage it, and that's something else, pre-sales that I want to get into. Can you manage it? Do you have the expertise? Do you have the personnel? Because resources is a big thing for people right now. It is very difficult to find qualified engineers, whether it be on the customer side or my side or the vendor side. right now there's a shortage, and I mean you can go on any website and Google it. The number of jobs for cybersecurity engineers and network engineers is just staggering number of jobs unfilled because of lack of technical expertise. So the last thing I want to do is sell something to a customer that they can't manage it, or get everything. If it has 20 features and they turn on one because they don't know how to do the others or can't manage the others, then that's not an effective solution for that customer.
My last interview on the Influencers podcast this week was a pre-sales specialist in the technical field, and he was talking about his goal was to make pre-sales a professional position at the C level, and they would interface with the CEO and the marketing director, not just be a support person, but an actual decision maker, because it's such a vital part of success of any business.
Mm-hmm. It is.
So
it is.
You probably fulfill that function in your business.
Well, yeah. So here's the thing. When you're talking about C-level and executive levels, it's having been an engineer, I can say this. It's difficult to find an engineer. I'd said a long time ago, someone told me, is like, if there's a scale of engineers, like from average to like genius, right? If you're a sales engineer, pre-sales engineer, you don't want to be on either extreme opposite. You kind of want to be about that 60% towards genius, maybe 70, because you start getting up super genius, they lose this is a generic statement, but some people don't have the people skills, right? So there's a big gap between C-level and sometimes the super smart engineers. But like, I got a lot of friends that are those super smart engineers. So I don't hurt any feelings, and I came from the engineering side, but there's a balance. But to your point, I think that's a great idea, is if you can find that right person to bridge that gap, and explain to them what solutions are important, or what risks they're trying to avert, but without their eyes glazing over. It's a great thing.
So you guys, a little hint there, audience, there's a big need for cybersecurity engineers right now, and it's a growing field.
Absolutely.
All right.
So go get your land primer book, read it. No.
Rusty, tell me what you're grateful for today.
Man, so much. Friends, family, grandson. I got a 3-year-old grandson by my daughter, and a lot of work people I've worked with over the years have given me opportunities that I would have never imagined my whole life.
Best thing about anything I can see is grandchildren that are here are on the way.
Oh yeah. Yeah. He's 3. And I try to see him as much as possible, but it hits different when it's a grandkid.
Absolutely. How do you get started every day? Tell us about.
Well, I should be going to the gym every day thanks to COVID and the extra 20 pounds I've lopped on, but usually it's a cup of coffee. I try to sit outside. I'm fortunate enough to live on the Intercoastal Waterway, so I can sit out on my back patio there and have a cup of coffee and take in a little nature, hopefully see a dolphin or two before I get started. And then it's into the office, and maybe a couple more cups of coffee, and heads down until, unless I'm traveling. I like to travel quite a bit, but post-COVID travel, I would say, still isn't up to where it was, where I was traveling every week pre-COVID. But doing events, getting in front of people is my favorite thing. Talking to people face to face, and really talking about some of these things we talked about today, and trying to help them out. But otherwise, it's sitting in here on the keyboard looking for opportunities and making calls and supporting customers who are having issues.
What's your big goal that you're trying to achieve this year?
My goal this year is hire another person for South Florida, another sales rep, hire a sales rep in the Carolinas, really grow out the Southeast to be a bigger portion of the business than it is, than it is now. Like I said, we started in the Northeast, so we have a ton of customers up there, and most of our revenue is up there. But I really want to build the Southeast out to generate more income for the company, more customers, and get the customers, down here, the Atlantic data experience. We have a new rep in Georgia, so we've got Atlanta covered now, and my goal is just to continue to build out that customer base.
What's your way of overcoming challenges? What do you do that succeeds?
Well, I'm pretty analytical, so if something gets thrown at me sideways, I usually try to think it through, think about it, sit down, find a path forward, and figure out the best way to get there. So I'm not super emotional when it comes to things. It goes back to being able to pivot, right? So your life is filled with different directions you could take, and they may not always be the right one, but the ability to pivot and kind of think things through, and you get a setback, you got to take it, right? I told somebody I got into sales, and they're like, oh, now you got it made, it's an easy job. And I'll tell you, sales is not easy. It's not physical labor. I've done physical labor in my life, but sales is not easy. I mean, you get a lot of rejection, you get a lot of no's, you get a lot of just non-responses. So you can't take it personal. That's why I try not to, like I said, I don't browbeat people, and I try to help them as much as I can, but I can't make them get back to me or call me back or email me back. And you get a lot of no's, a lot of rejections, but you just keep going, right? And you move on to the next one, and try to keep going. That's all you got to do. You get up every morning and keep going.
You work with partners, you work with bosses, people that are in charge. How do you bring a revenue generating idea to them, convince them that what you think is going to benefit the company is the way we should go?
Yeah, I think from my standpoint, like, we're still pretty small. We're a tight knit group. So from that aspect, a lot of times it means, like, we'll have a new vendor coming in and trying to get us to sell their solution. And I think if one really hits with me, and I like their messaging, I like their product, it looks like it would benefit my customers or new customers, we have a conversation. We have a conversation about it. We do Vendor Tuesdays where we'll look at different solutions, but it's hard to get on that calendar because, as I said, there's so many. I mean, there's thousands of vendors, right? And it's a lot of noise. You got to get through the noise. But for me, if I really believe in a solution or a product, and I think it's going to generate revenue, I'll put effort into that product, and we have an internal conversation. Why does this product? Why do you like it? What's it do that the other products we already sell that are similar? What does it do that they don't do? Why would customers want to buy that product? How are you gonna? What's going to make it successful for you to sell that product? So it's usually an internal conversation here.
If you have paid digital media to grow your company, to gain clients, such as Facebook or LinkedIn you mentioned before, has that played a role in your growth as far as attracting new business?
Well, I think, luckily we have a marketing department that does a lot of that. But we certainly advertise. We advertise in the trade magazines. We advertise online, and it's like anything. Marketing is necessary, right? I've got great marketing people. They're the ones that handle all the events for us, the logistics of those events. If we're doing any advertising, the events and the day-to-day stuff is one thing, but having a good strategy, a good marketing strategy that does things like focused ads, and whether they be on LinkedIn or just different sites on the internet or trade magazines, etc. That's a strategy call that helps drive people to know who you are, right? If you don't have name recognition, and like I said, there's thousands of vendors, there's also a lot of resellers. So, and we fight some of the big guys, right? Everyone's heard of CDW, everyone's heard of SHI, and these are giant monster companies. So what we try to do is pull some of that out and provide. We have to provide more than they provide. Anybody can do a transaction and sell a product and walk away, but for us, we have to use those ads to get our name out there. But then after we get contact, we've got to show that extra value. We got to prove more.
One of the things that people really look for is targeted traffic, so that they can hone in on the people that really want what you sell.
Mm-hmm.
So we're interested in always hearing what people think about their ad spend, their revenue they want to do. Some amount of ad revenue spends in the paid media. But which is better, if you have an idea? Would you rather spend the same amount and get 5 or 10 times more business? Or would you rather save 50%, 60% and get the same amount of business on your ad spend? Which is better for your company?
I saving money and getting the same results, a better ROI, like we talked about. So, I mean, obviously that'd be my choice. If you're able to target the customers that you want to target, the audience that you want to target, and be focused on that and get your message to the right people. If you can do it for less money, that's a no-brainer.
What about advice? You're called to give advice to a lot of people about cybersecurity and systems, but what advice would you give yourself, looking back at your career, if you're advising your young self to do the next thing to get ready for life?
Oh, that's pretty easy. I'd say don't be so stubborn and hard-headed and set in your ways. I don't know if I'd listen because I'm still stubborn and hard-headed. Not so set in my ways anymore. I've opened up a little bit, but I'd say keep your head up, go the extra mile. Be open to change, be ready to pivot, and don't be so hard-headed that you can't learn new things, because a lot of times we get in this silo of the way we think, and I know I do it. I'm guilty of it, and I can't see the other argument, the other side, and I think that limits your ability to grow, whether it's in career or personal life in general. That limits you. And then don't be afraid to toot your own horn. And I say that if your head's down all the time and you're the best worker at a company and you're doing incredible things and crushing it, and your management doesn't really pay attention and know, you're doing yourself a disservice. And I don't mean bragging about everything you do, but you certainly want to make sure that your company is aware of the value you bring. So
two good gems there. I like that both. Let people know of your successes and be sure that
they're going to know your failures.
They're going to know your failures.
They're going to know your failures. So make sure they know your successes.
Do you have a living mentor now, and what's their impact on you?
I would say my dad was my biggest impact. We're in completely different professions, but his work ethic was instilled. He always told me, no matter what you're doing, I got a job at a restaurant when I was a kid. He's like, look, if you're standing around, there's nothing to do, grab a broom and sweep up, grab a mop and sweep up. Look, if you see something that needs to be done, don't wait for someone to tell you to do it. Go do it. And I think that's been something that's gone with me my whole life. So,
why is being impactful important to you, Rusty?
For me personally, if I'm not impactful, I'm probably not being successful. So, for me to come down here in Florida, take over a complete greenfield market and try and build that out, if I don't have an impact and I don't make an impact with getting new customers and getting new business, then I'm not successful. So I think it kind of goes hand in hand with success.
Okay. When it's all said and done, what do you want to be remembered for? I would say, a good friend, a good father, a good husband, a good coworker, a good person in general.
somebody that I try to be fair, try to be honest. I try to treat people the way I want to be treated, and that's kind of that's it, really. That's enough,
Who,
Besides being so good looking, I don't.
who's your favorite football team?
Oh God, man, I'm embarrassed to say this, but I'm from Charlotte. So I've been in Florida for 5 years, so I'm a Panthers fan. I've still got season tickets, and can't really give them away right now, but I've got season tickets. But after last year, I'm so close to Jacksonville. I might have to start pulling for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I refrained from being a Jacksonville fan because my heart couldn't take two losing teams at one time. But Jacksonville seems to be turning around, so who knows? Hopefully the Panthers will too. But
Yeah, well, you're surrounded by so many good teams, college and professional.
yeah, well, Tampa Bay,
My son's moving to Charlotte next week.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah, if you want to get rid of some tickets, let me know.
Yeah, hey, let's talk afterwards. I just renewed them, so
Yeah,
40 yard line.
he's moving from Nashville to Charlotte, so he's a big race fan. So
Oh, okay, awesome. Yeah,
he'll love being in that town, won't he?
yeah. I was talking about my dad earlier. He just retired from Penske racing. So
Now you talked about your favorite football team, but what about your favorite bourbon?
favorite bourbon. I would say my favorite bourbon is Elmer T. Lee, and it's from Buffalo Trace Distillery. It's not super expensive. It's just impossible to get. It's like $60 a bottle if you could actually get it retail. That, and of course the Pappy Van Winkles are, everyone's searching for those. My favorite Pappy is a 12-year-old. But I can't get that one either much. There is a place down for me that has both of those every once in a while, so I get to go in there and try a little sample. But
They call you when they come in because you're an elite customer.
No, they usually post it on Facebook. It's a restaurant, so we'll go down there. But they do half price night on Wednesdays and Thursdays for all their bourbons, whether it's 12-year-old or not. So that's a pretty fantastic deal.
Sounds like a winner.
Yeah.
Tell us what can we do to support you, and give us the website links or LinkedIn place to connect to you.
Yeah, I think for me, sales is all about relationships. So, allowing me to be on here and talk about Atlantic Data Security and myself and what we're trying to do with customers and support them on their cybersecurity journeys. I think that's a big help. We talked about people getting infected and getting ransomware, and a lot of people, again, you're in your silo as a customer, and maybe you've been there 10 years and you don't know, you don't know what to do next, right? That next threat, and that's where we can help you. But just being on the show, building a relationship with you, and I think that's where deals are made. Once you get, you get relationships, and they spread from there.
Yeah, you have to deal with people's fears and the unknown when you're dealing with cybersecurity. So it is a personal relationship that really would cement the deal, wouldn't it?
100%. 100%.
Tell us about your experience on the show today.
It was good. It was good. I don't know how well I did, but good questions. I liked going through the questions. Just the exercise of answering the questions takes me back to, how I got started and the journey I've taken to get where I'm at, and kind of the good things, some of the, the harder things. So it's been a pleasurable experience, and I appreciate it.
You're welcome. People all around the world learn on the Influencers podcast from experts, from seasoned veterans, from mature folks in the business, as well as people doing startups and the trials and tribulations of a startup. It's useful. Thank you for being here, for sharing with us. And I want to give you the last word before I sign off, and I'll come back and say hello to you before I go. And you can have the floor for.
Did I lose you? You still there?
Yeah, go ahead and have the final word.
Sorry, I thought I lost you there. Yeah. So, I talked a lot about pivoting, and I talked about moving from a sheriff's deputy to technical to sales, et cetera. I think in general, find something you're good at, something you enjoy, um, something that you like doing, and go for it. And that might mean making setting the world on fire, making tons, $1 billion, and and living a dream. It may be as simple as finding something you like to do that provides for you mentally and financially, and you're okay with that. And I don't think there's any wrong answers. There's people have different desires and different needs, and as long as you're happy and you enjoy what you're doing, it makes the day to day so much easier. I like cybersecurity. I got into it, 1998, I think it was, and it still intrigues me to this day. So I'm glad to be a part of it, and luckily I've been able to make a good living doing it, doing something I enjoy, and that would be my suggestion to everyone. Find something you like, make it, make it, you know, make it work for you, and hopefully you can make a living out of it.
There you have it. Rusty Agee of Atlantic Data Security in the east coast of Florida. Now, if you've been worried about cybersecurity and you don't know who to turn to, go down and check out what they can do for you. Rusty Agee on LinkedIn is how you would reach Rusty. And he has his broadcast, his interviews, the Bourbon and Breeches, which is kind of a fun way to meet people over a cocktail, virtual cocktail. So looking forward to getting together and talking with Rusty about data security. Speaking of things to get together and talk about, before we go today, I want to be sure you all get your golden ticket. Join me in the world of IT that we are focused on with On Passive, and that would be the golden ticket. You can have free access to our entire ecosystem and see what's going on. This is a big day for those because we announced the launch day of our entire product line for O Connect yesterday. We announced it as June 1st, 2023. So look forward to the time where you can access that and become part of the On Passive team. This is Dr. Bill Williams signing off on the Influencers Podcast, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again on the next session. Live from Atlanta, Georgia, this is Dr. Bill Williams signing off. We'll see